Good morning, Cedar Park High School. It's Wednesday, October 21st, and it's an 8A. I'm Ellen Neal.
And I'm Abby Martinez.
On the Wolfcast today, we have a story on the ACT and SAT, COVID screeners, the basketball fundraiser,
The top 3 things you need to know for today, and a new edition of the Pack Chat.
Let's jump in because the Wolfcast starts now. With many seniors applying to college right now, there are many questions on how the applications differ due to COVID-19.
Now that some schools are going test optional, colleges will have to pay more attention to other areas such as GPA and extracurriculars.
When many ACT and SAT tests got canceled due to COVID-19, almost every college changed to test optional. This caused people to really think about whether or not they should submit their test scores.
I feel like there are definitely benefits to see, how people do, on tests, but at the same time, I feel like, because personally for me, I get, test anxiety, so even if I know the stuff, then I still get it wrong sometimes because I'm just, in my head the whole time, so I feel like it could be beneficial to see, how well people do, but I also feel like it's not beneficial for the people who get test anxiety like I do.
Another major factor that goes into the decision is what colleges you're applying to and how competitive they are.
I think it really depends on the school you apply to. I think for the more competitive schools UT, I think it would be beneficial for students to submit their scores if they're really high, just because it'll give them a leg up. But I know for a lot of the students that weren't able to take test scores, they obviously won't be able to submit it. So I think it really depends on the school you want to apply to and your situation.
One major concern is for the students who didn't even get the opportunity to take the ACT or SAT at all.
We can continue to take the SAT and ACT. We are still offering those. And you can still continue to take those. I know a lot of universities say they'll take them through December.
Test scores being optional this year made many people question the importance of it, and if this will be a permanent change in the future.
I could definitely see it being test optional, but I think unfortunately for some schools, there are, some schools that require test scores and require those things. So as much as I would love for there to be all schools where it's test optional, I feel like that could also definitely take some stress off of people, but I don't think that all schools will do them.
I know for sure. I went to Ohio University. My alma mater has already said, as a result of COVID, you know what, we're not going to do SAT and ACT anymore. It's not going to be required. But again, universities are still going to need some kind of a barometer by which they can determine if you're college ready.
Thanks, Amelia.
As schools are evolving throughout the nation to combat the rise of COVID-19 cases, students who choose to attend school for in-person learning at TPHS has more than likely met our little friend, the COVID screener. The form acts as a self-check for your health, and although it doesn't seem like much, it is extremely important to not take lightly. If compliance by students to self-screen is weak, then the school is practically open season for a rise in cases. Associate Principal Teresa Back explains the weight these screeners hold across the state and how we as a school are responding.
The screeners are actually a state law that we are required to comply with. So all high schools throughout the district are having students complete the screeners on a daily basis. Yesterday we did our first sweep to check compliance, and we were very excited to see that the vast majority of students are doing that. So we really appreciate you guys doing your part to ensure a safe environment for everybody.
If you want a quick and easy way to find and fill out the screeners, download the Student News Source app and add Cedar Park High School to make this process easier.
This Saturday, October 24th, the Lady Timbers basketball team will be hosting their annual Hoopfest fundraiser. Hoopfest is an annual free throw competition that the girls basketball team has been doing for the past 3 years. Parents, students, teachers, and more can pledge to a player a certain amount of money per basketball shot made out of 100 attempts.
I feel like what it means to us is that people actually care about our program. We're not just doing this just for ourselves. Other people are interested in our program and watching our games and stuff like that. So to know that they're supporting us really helps.
All of the money raised will help with expenses for uniforms, training equipment, travel costs, and more. For more information, check out the girls basketball Instagram account at CPHS Lady B-Ball.
Smoky Moe's Barbecue, the best barbecue that money can buy. Proudly supporting Cedar Park High School.
Hey Cedar Park High School, I'm Reagan Hill, and here are your top 3 things you need to know for today. First up, Texas is now one among 11 other states in lawsuit against Google. This lawsuit accuses Google of maintaining search engine and other advertising monopolies. Google responded immediately saying, quote, "Today's lawsuit by the Department of Justice is deeply flawed. People use Google because they choose to, not because they're forced to or because they can't find alternatives." End quote. Next, after being missing in Utah's Zion National Park for 12 days, 38-year-old mom Holly Courtier was located by park rangers and was later reunited with her family. They located her after receiving a tip from a visitor that had seen her at the park. After receiving a nasty blow to her head by a tree, she was luckily able to survive by staying near water until they found her. Lastly, a monster pumpkin weighing in at 2,350 pounds is crowned the largest grown pumpkin in North America. Travis Ganger, the pumpkin grower, won the Safeway World Championship Pumpkin Weigh-Off, taking home the grand prize, which is over $16,000. Driving all the way from Minnesota to California, this is well worth the trip. And that's all I have for you today. With CPHS News, I'm Reagan Hill. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Reagan. Up next is a new edition of the Pack Chat.
But first, this break.
We are not just here to share announcements. We are here to tell stories. Your stories. Students depend on us, and what they need from us is to be hyped, to be ready, to be informed, to be successful, to be Timberwolves. We are real news. We are sideline reporters, moment capturers, question askers, life sharers, cheers spreaders, and voice givers. And above all, we are students just like you, here to help you. We are journalism, newspaper, yearbook, and broadcast. We are CPHS News.
Welcome back to the Pack Chat, our student voice opinion segment. I'm joined today by my co-host, Victor Martinez, as well as our guest co-hosts, Claire Mallet and Jack Polishchuk, as we discuss this week's most trending topics. With that being said, let's get started. First, actor Chris Pratt is trending after an online challenge to name the worst Chris. Several movie castmates such as Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo are coming to Chris's side to defend him. This has a lot of people upset as they feel the Marvel group rushed to Chris's side very, very fast when he was just being called out for a Republican, but sat by silently during the harassment of Zendaya and other actresses like Brie Larson. So what do you guys think about this? Have you guys seen the tweets, regarding it? And just, kind of how do you feel about it?
Personally, I kind of agree with the fact that like all of these actors coming out to like really quickly defend Chris Pratt and then were completely silent when people like Brie Larson and Zendaya were being harassed and attacked. I don't think that that's right, and I definitely think that those women and all the other people who were being attacked by Marvel fans should have gotten that defense that they deserved. But I think that on like the front of people being like really upset and trying to like cancel Chris Pratt or calling him the worst Pratt, I think that's kind of just what like people on Twitter doing what people on Twitter do best, and kind of just being like, I kind of don't really agree with this. So like this is like the worst Chris Pratt, when I think like historically he's been a pretty good guy, and there hasn't been very much controversy concerning him.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think it's a little funny that, he was that worked up and his castmates were that worked up over just like people messing around with him and like canceling him for like being a Republican, but obviously they couldn't actually cancel him. But I just think it's like a little funny how worked up they all got over that. But once again, when people were being harassed at the same set where they worked, it was silent, crickets, nothing from them.
And especially because like that kind of division between, because originally it was Ellen Page who called Chris out and saying that like, oh, like he attends this homophobic church and like, you know, I don't know, like made a comment about that on Twitter and he got upset. And but that was kind of like that happened a while ago. That kind of like cooled down and like things kind of like settled. He made clear that he wasn't really like hateful towards like the LGBT community and that he just like attended that church, which he like believed to be accepting of anybody. But now like this like kind of like minor, like you said, like they're just like people kind of like playing around with him, that like these actors, like especially RDJ's, like his post on Instagram was really like extremely dramatic, like talking about how like, you know, like what a world, the sinless are casting stones at my hashtag brother Chris Pratt, a real Christian who lives by principle but has never demonstrated anything but positivity and gratitude. And it's just like they rushed to his defense when I think that if people had valid criticisms of him, they were completely valid.
Completely agreed.
True.
Yeah, I think like the whole situation is just like pretty ridiculous. I think it would have just been best if like everybody just ignored it and like nobody said anything. I didn't think anybody, like, they didn't have to make a scene, and you know. Yeah.
I think if Chris had just addressed it when it happened, then like this could have been pretty much avoided, and I don't think people would be as upset as they were, because I do think the criticisms, kind of like Victor was saying, the criticisms against him were valid. But if Chris had just come out and said like, I don't support this, like this is not really what I believe for or stand up for, I think that people would be significantly less upset.
Definitely. And next, a shocking act of violence has triggered a massive upheaval and national outrage in France after a teacher was beheaded by a religious extremist. The teacher showed the infamous caricature from the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo of the Prophet Muhammad from 2015 that triggered the terrorist attack that killed 12 of the newspaper's journalists. As a part of the school's curriculum about freedom of speech, the teacher showed the image in an attempt to spark debate. He warned all students that he was going to show this provocative drawing and invited everyone who would feel uncomfortable to leave the room and not partake in the activity. This murder has sparked a national debate in France regarding freedom of speech and how France's famously secular society can address the issue of religious extremism. So what do you guys think about this? Obviously, we've all read the article over it. We've seen it. There's protests. What do you guys think?
Well, I think that France's culture inherently, it's kind of a big deal to them to practice religion in public. They're like a tolerant country. You're allowed to worship whoever or whatever you want in the privacy of your own home. But it's very well known in France that like the public areas are not places for religion. You don't practice, like you don't pray or preach or wear any kind of like religious affiliation in public. So I think that kind of like this religious extremist beheading this teacher is a big deal for French people, because they do have this rule where you don't practice religion in public. And they've been pretty lax on it, but after this incident, I think French people are really outraged and want to see some change.
Yeah, that's definitely what I read as well, that they are a bit tired of, because there has been, a growing number of terrorist attacks in France. And so I think, they are getting a little bit tired of it, as well as, it definitely goes back to the freedom of speech and whatnot, and, kind of how that plays into it all. And I think it's definitely very interesting that, this teacher, I want to say his intentions were good. Obviously, he knew that the picture was very controversial at the last time that it was showed. 12 people were killed. So, but I definitely think the warning he gave was a fair warning. And I think this is definitely interesting. I mean, Claire, you're from France, so you probably would know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I talked to my dad about it, and I know quite a bit. I'm just interested to see how it's going to play out, because like France has been having that issue about like balancing religion with kind of like their general public, like rule of the republic with religion. So it's definitely going to be kind of crazy to see how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like, if I think that the teacher in question like took like a lot of like precautions, telling like students to leave the room. Like, I think that was like a totally fair warning, as Ellis said. Like, I think since tensions, especially concerning that specific image and that specific satirical magazine, like, were so tense, like the teacher could have like continued with the lesson without like showing the image. But I think it's ridiculous that like the teacher's like life was taken for something like that. Like I think that's incredibly wrong, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. But I feel like if 12 people died because of that photo, I really don't think it was a good idea to show it in class. I mean, obviously it's free speech, but like when that happens because of one picture, I wouldn't show it in class, and just in case, like.
I agree with you, Jack.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jack.
Also, like in the Islamic religion, you're not like images of the prophet aren't really allowed. Like you aren't supposed to be there aren't supposed to be images of the prophet. So like obviously it was very offensive to the Muslim students and like the Muslim community in France. But I do kind of agree with y'all that the teacher gave fair warning and that students were allowed to leave if they didn't want to partake in the activity. So yeah, it's definitely a fine line that they have to walk.
True. And finally, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is set to stream the new popular game Among Us on Twitch. She showed her interest for the game, which prompted people to encourage her to make an account. She's using this as an opportunity to encourage young people to vote. I feel like this is a great way for her, to get out there with young people. She actually did stream last night. I did see a few clips of it. Looks like people were having a lot of fun with her. It looks like she was having fun. She was playing. I haven't played Among Us. Have any of y'all?
I haven't.
I have. You have, Jack? Is it fun?
Yes. Oh, it's pretty fun when you play with your friends.
Yeah. But how do y'all think that this could encourage, young voters to go out and vote? I feel like she's really, getting in there with the young crowd.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that like AOC has always had like a really good connection with young people, especially with this generation. Like this generation, like young people who like elected her to Congress. Like that was the reason that she won her seat against like a 10-year incumbent, was because like a huge like turnout of young people. So it like definitely makes sense for her to be appealing to this like new generation and appealing to what we like to do, appealing to what like we have fun with, and just trying to like connect with people and be. Like, I mean, she is like she's also very like young, but like, so it's just like an interesting opportunity for her to like connect with like younger people.
Yeah, I agree with Victor. I definitely think that it's a super effective way to like interact and engage with kind of like her audience, I would say, like the people who are mostly supporting her. I think that it's great that she's playing Among Us with everybody. Because yeah, I mean, all of the people in my generation, I know that it's like a really big thing right now. So I think that it's a good and fun way to like interact with the people who are like going to vote for you and like be interested in politics.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely very, very, very cute. And that's all we have for today. Thank y'all for tuning in, and remember, Wolfpack, there's always time to chat.
Thanks, Pack Chat hosts.
That's all you have for today. Don't forget you can catch anything you missed on today's show on our YouTube channel. Just search CPHS News.
Make sure to tune in this Friday for a story over new school board elections, applying for college, cheer, your top 3 things, a new sports report, an episode of Hungry Houston, and your pet of the week. With CPHS News, I'm Abby Martinez.
And I'm Ellen Neal. Remember to make it a great day or not. The choice is yours.